Today we're taking bad decisions and turning them into something great, like this fabric that I made a mistake in buying and turned into beautiful curtains. Today I'm making curtains for this window out of the worst fabric I could find in my stash. Christine, turn me into curtains. When your fabric starts talking to you, you have to listen to it. And because I impulse bought 6 yards of purple and black stretch knit fabric for $25, cause that's such a good deal, how can you not buy 6 yards of fabric for $25? And it's literally been lying around wasting space for the better half of a decade. It's time to go. I need to get this fabric out of my fabric stash. And since I'm dead set on using this fabric, I need to work around the properties that make this a bad fabric to make curtains with. The first problem is this is not a light blocking fabric. It's a pretty sheer fabric, and the purple and black stripes give a strange light blocking effect when you put it over a window. The other main problem is this knit fabric by nature is too stretchy and not stable enough for curtains or drapes. But I've thought of something that can maybe fix both of those problems a little bit. I can line my curtain with this black duvet cover that I bought from some scam website thinking it was a duvet, not a duvet cover, and it has also been laying around wasting space for a few years. This duvet cover is a very stable woven fabric that will have the structure necessary to make curtains with. And even though it doesn't block light completely on its own, when I layer it with my knit fabric, it does a much better job. If you've never made curtains before, they're actually really easy to make, and they're a great project even for beginners because all of your seams are straight and your measurements are pretty straightforward. Measure the full width of your window from one edge of your window frame to the other. And divide that number in half if you want to make 2 curtains. And you can always make your curtains wider than that and then have them like bunch up a little bit on your curtain rod. That's fine too. Measure the length of your curtains from the top of your windowsill to the bottom of your windowsill, the floor, or however long you want your curtains to be. I want really long curtains that skim the floor, so I'm going to make mine 7 feet long and then trim them later if I need to. You will also need to add 4 to 8 inches at the top of your curtain to make a little pocket for your curtain rod to slide through. You might also need to add seam allowances, but I'm drowning in so much fabric here, I'm just not even going to bother with it. So let's cross our fingers and try to make some curtains out of this bad fabric choice. But before I can turn it into curtains, I need to rip apart this duvet cover. Normally I would use a seam ripper to pick apart my seams in order to save the most amount of fabric, but since this is such a large scale project, I am completely removing the seam by cutting it off with scissors. I'm cutting my duvet cover in half along the bottom, so I have 2 separate pieces to make my curtains out of. And I'm snipping off the buttons and opening up the buttonholes so I can use the flap at the top for my curtain rod pocket. I trimmed along the stripes of my fabric to straighten out the top edge, measured about 7 feet down the length of my fabric, and cut the bottom edge along the stripes as well. I layered my knit fabric over my duvet cover as a guide and cut my duvet cover slightly wider because I do plan to add a seam allowance to the duvet cover. And I have 2 of these panels left over after cutting out the backing or lining of my curtains, and that's really exciting because I've always wanted to make a dress out of this fabric, and I think I will have enough left over to do that. I simply serged all along the raw edges of each panel of my duvet covers to seal the raw edges. It's so crazy to think we've been in this house for 6 months already, and this is the first thing I've been able to sew. It's relieving and exciting and a little bit stressful all at the same time. And again, this is super easy. It's just a little time consuming because these seams are really long. Yay. I don't need to worry about finishing the raw edges on my knit fabric because knit fabric isn't going to fray on the edges anyway, so I just have one step left to do. I laid my two fabrics right sides together, overlapping my knit fabric with the pocket for the curtain rod. I pinned them together using the stripes on my knit fabric and the seam on the duvet cover as a guide. And I hand sewed them together using a nice sturdy back stitch. And I'm using a fairly long back stitch to stitch these two fabrics together because the seam will not be holding a lot of tension once it's finished. The goal is for a nice seamless look when I flip the knit fabric down. Now there's two main reasons why I am hand sewing this step of my project. The first reason is when you use a bad fabric choice like this one, or you're trying to sew a knit fabric to a woven fabric like this project, you're most likely to screw up and ruin everything in your sewing machine. This is because your knit fabric and your woven fabric will not feed through a sewing machine at the same rate. But you can hand sew a knit fabric to a woven fabric without worrying about your fabric slipping. And the second reason is I just haven't hand sewn anything in a while, and I think it's very meditative and relaxing and really good stress relief to hand sew. So let's put some music on and get to hand sewing. As with any hand sewing project, it started coming together fairly quickly once I got into the groove of hand sewing it together. Hi, Kojo. Hey, sweetie. What you doing, Kojo? Did you come to eat some pins, Mr. Kojo Cat? And when it's done, we flip it over. That's exactly what I wanted. Now on to panel 2. The second one is not coming together as fast as the first one. Pro tip, if you're ever sewing on the floor, keep your back straight so you don't injure it, and put the tension on your hips and it'll be a really good hip stretch as well. And I really burned the midnight oil on this one, but I got my second panel done tonight, so these curtains are finished. And here's the new double bracket! So the double bracket only came with one curtain rod, which I thought was kind of cheap, but I can use the curtain rod that was on this window before as the second curtain rod. The rod that came with the double bracket is the back rod, so I will use that to hang my curtains on. And the old curtain rod will sit in front, so I will use that for my window valances. They still kind of smell like old people. And since I'm reusing the curtain rod that was in here, I get to use these really pretty decorative end pieces as well. Let's put up some curtains. Yeah, that's not gonna work. I'm gonna need my husband's help for this one. Here we go. I feel like I could just hide in these curtains and never come out. I think I was a little harsh on this fabric earlier. It's actually kind of perfect. I think I was letting my regret of not using this fabric kind of cloud my judgment and make me think I was really hating this fabric for a while, but I just needed to find the right project for it. This fabric is totally me, and these curtains came out like so perfect. So perfect. Hit that like button if you like these curtains, and hit the dislike button if you don't like them. That's cool too. You don't have to have the same taste as me. You guys know I love an upcycling project, and this duvet cover to curtain lining is probably the most satisfying upcycling project I've ever made. Not only did this duvet cover make a perfect curtain lining, but I've come to peace with getting scammed into buying it because that website got shut down for deceptively marketing products to consumers anyway. And I love, love, love the combination of these window valances with my purple and black striped curtains. It's really inspiring me to want to be creative and make stuff in this room. And since I've been having a hard time actually getting this room set up and planning out what I want to do with this room, this is a huge motivator for me to actually get this room put together so I can start sewing and creating more stuff in it. And if you want to see what I do with the rest of this really boring blank room right now, then make sure you're subscribed to my channels because my next few videos are going to be about organizing this room and setting it up to sew in. And let me know down in the comments if you've ever regretted purchasing fabric and then turned it into something you absolutely love, like these curtains. Thank you guys so much for watching my video today. I will see you guys next time.